This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello and welcome to IMP's WWE Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Red Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord. Link is in the description. Listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Up with Chris Stings, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, and the AEW Match Guide. Buy our merch from Chopped-Tees. Big shout out to Dickie. Amazing merch, amazing quality. Not your gonna fade off in a certain amount of time printed shit. No. This is top quality merch. I'm already wearing my hoodie a little too much. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and this is your quick look back at the WWE week that was. 30 minutes of a break from all the election nonsense. I could have recorded yesterday, and then I thought, you know what, maybe day after the election, maybe I don't want to be recording that close to it, so just leave it a day. Digest some wrestling, watch some AEW, get into that, find out what happened on NXT. Don't watch it, because I haven't got time to watch 4 hours of wrestling on a Thursday. It's not going to happen. Then just use this as like a nice little detox. So use this as your 30 minutes just to escape the world. And listen to an Englishman talking about Saudi Arabia. Not of all the topics I could have possibly had. It's like, if it's an escape. It's an escape. I was just looking at my notes, just like, okay, it'd be quite good for me to just do like a nice little light-hearted one. Okay, yeah, what am I talking about? Oh, fuck, it's Saudi Arabia. Like, oh well. Escape one nightmare scenario in for another. Get on board, everybody. It's propaganda time. It's that time of year once again. Jumping over to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for a little bit of propaganda. Like my last column I wrote about this for Wrestling Headlines, I was talking about how we're at this point now where the show quality was jumping up to a point where they're actually watchable shows. And they weren't absolutely laden with propaganda to the point where it was like, where you felt offended watching the show in those early stages because it wasn't done well. Now, it's propaganda presented better within the show. I feel like in terms of critique, like, yeah, the propaganda's done better. It's still propaganda. Like, my biggest kind of contestation to anyone is like, oh, it's not any different to any other countries. Like, there's in absolutely no world are Saudi Arabia paying $50 million per show just to put on a show. In no world is that a reality. They're paying $50 million for the propaganda. So, you know, at the end of the day, as we all know, Riyadh is just such a beautiful, progressive city. It's just so progressive. It's just so progressive, a beautiful city. Like, if there's one takeaway, from this show, it's definitely not propaganda. I don't feel like these shows deserve the full PLE edits of me putting in sound clips for every single match just to make it feel like a bit different from normal shows. I'll probably do that for Survivor Series, but I don't think Crown Jewel really should get it. So let's jump on over to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia to talk about, all the football and all the other sports tourists could attend when they go on holiday to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the beautiful progressive city. They're the actual talking points, right? Anyway, let's jump on over.
Solo not done yet! Another Samoan spike! A cover by Sikoa! The new Bloodline! Victorious!
Yes, I am starting with the 6-man tag. Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga versus Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso. Making the moves already to make sure that Tanga Loa isn't on the pay-per-view matches. Immediately. Like, you're going to have to put him in Survivor Series. I'll find it hilarious if they find someone to replace Tanga Loa so he's not even in that one. I'll find that so funny. So also, I didn't watch Smackers, so I genuinely didn't know the lineup facing them, and I decided not to go onto Twitter or anything or see anything or go onto Blue Sky, so I didn't really see any spoilers for the show, and I decided I'm going to go into this blind. I don't know any of the matches that were announced on SmackDown. I mean, it's figure-outable because I had watched all the other shows. This era of WWE actually does build up to the stuff so you can predict it. Some people call that predictable. I call it, actually making your world and characters make sense. It means you get less surprise, but it means the things that happen do make more sense, and it's way easier to get excited for the things happening in the future because they're telling you what they're going to be doing. You can also use that to trick people. They get used to the pattern, and then you can subvert. But also, my version of watching it was like watching an unboxed Survivor Series tag. It's like, oh, who's coming out next? Like, just a fun idea from the indies, their trips. Like, if you want to do an unboxed Survivor Series match where you don't know any of the competitors, Commentary plugging this match as the first time we got to see if the narcissism shown during Reigns' title reign really is able to be put aside. The Uso brothers really milked their tag move spots, like Cole with his classic Usos, as we were shown how nice it was to see them teaming together again. Loud chants for Roman as Jay refused to let the big man call the shots. Not a bad way to also milk that eventual pop for all it was worth. That's what this match was. A lot of, the beats are going to play out of this match. We're just going to milk out those reactions for every single drop we can get. Your standard tag flow for these matches, slowing it right down. Worked to a treat though as Riyadh erupted for Reigns and Sikoa trading blows. Jimmy nearly missed his spot after Solo spiked Reigns to counter a spear. We're not in the you fucked up era anymore though. Even though we had a show at the ECW arena, we're not getting the you fucked up chance anymore. So the crowd is so much more willing to just go along with it. The flow with the goodies until the ref went down to allow Fatu to swing in as a difference maker yet again. Riyadh immediately read the room and started calling chants for Sami, also doing chants of Sami Uso throughout this all of this show and during his segment and during Monday Night Raw as well. Fatu with his awesome pop-up moonsault to Reigns before diving to the outside because he's just awesome. The family may be back together, but it's still a 4-on-3 handicap. A second spike and Sikoa just pins Roman relatively clean, leading to a big post-match beatdown. A nice beat of Sami only coming out once it's Jey Uso alone in the ring. They didn't come out for Reigns getting beaten up, didn't come out for Jimmy. It wasn't until Jey was getting beat up alone in the ring. The Bloodline gave him the offer to go against Roman, but it's Jey the man that he's siding with. That non-togetherness just flat out displayed in action as Roman and Sami's charges ended up in a Helluva hitting the spear charge right on the noggin after Solo ducked. Everyone looking down at the ground after, all being like, drama. And that carried over through to Monday Night Raw, teasing more drama. I know these kind of matches aren't everybody's cup of tea, and I do know there are a bunch of people where it really is their cup of tea. For me, it's all right. I think what helps as well is this is the opening match. When this kind of match is the main event, I kind of struggle. Even when it was the super tag team, the modern day Macho Man Hulk Hogan with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes in the main event. Even with that, I was dipping in and out of paying attention. In such a big, huge environment that they built it up to be. But when it's the opener of the show, I'm finding way more forgiving, even though they're doing the same stuff. Putting it in this position on the card, I'm way more likely just to be paying attention and not really shitting on it as much compared to when it's a main event. Plus, it was nice just when you give a stage like this to a crowd like Riyadh, you are pretty much guaranteeing the big pops for the relatively expected cycle, but it makes it feel like it's a bigger deal, especially as you're then going to use it to catapult into War Games, especially with Sami Zayn being brought in. And I feel like that's just it's not just a Riyadh thing, it's using your European crowds, and again when they did Backlash in Puerto Rico, just a similar thing of giving the expected beats a much bigger pop, presenting them in front of an audience and doesn't normally get to eat like this. It's really, really smart just because it gives them much bigger reactions than they would probably get if you did it on American grounds. Because American fans are spoiled. They see the stuff so many times, it takes a little bit more to get them going. Again, the current fan base is very, very forgiving. When business is hot, you can't do anything wrong kind of relationship with the company right now. And it's really weird just to be in this era where there's now a growing section of fans who just didn't live through that crap era. We're in that era of just the revisionist stuff is happening. It's it wasn't that bad. Or you just get something like a segment put out of context, being this happened in this year. And I'll see the date say 2018 or 2019. If you looked at the comments within it, you'll see something like, it was, wasn't it great when we were in the middle of this? And I'm just like, no, 2019 sucks. Stop this. It was awful. It was awful. But the show overall was fine. Sprinkled in between the matches was Michael Cole reading out propaganda lines. I joked about the football thing earlier. That was generally something he said. He generally did. Let me just scroll back up so I can read it correctly. Oh, I've literally just written down, talk about the football and all the other sports a tourist could attend. That was my note for Michael Cole's commentary. In between the matches, going to do that, and then he leads into the promo package. There was just a lot of that. Stuff which they have used to advertise the other cities they've been in. This is what I mean by it's much better done propaganda. Of course it's going to be a show full of propaganda. It's 50 million per show. Of course they're going to do it. But in my brain, I still react. I go into these shows expecting it to be like it was when this deal began. And when this deal began, it was integrated so badly. And it was the type of stuff where it was so trying to be not just advertising it as a tourist destination, but trying to paint themselves as progressive in such an aggressive way. And full promo video packages showing women driving, when if you would have looked into anything outside of this promotional material, you would have seen women who are doing any form of protest to try and get this thing happening being jailed. And it's just it was done in such a ham-fisted way on these shows previously. To be fair, like every other ounce of their production, They've made it way less ham-fisted. The way that they tell their stories, the way that they film things, the way that they transition around within the show, it's just a lot less. It's a lot less ham-fisted. It's way more natural. The flow's so much better. But it is still propaganda. It still is. I think that's my takeaway from my final column, which I wrote a few years ago now. My main point was, as long as you go in knowing what it is, like, it's not going to make any difference on anything, but as long as people know what it is going in and aren't lying to themselves that it isn't what it is. But that's almost recognising, like, the bigger cultural thing that's currently happening. It's not happening just in America because the influencers go across the rest of the world. We call it post-truth, but really it's believe whatever you want. The actual truth doesn't matter, which I find quite disheartening. But I put the column out there, being like, as long as you know what it is. But in the post-truth world, you can tell yourself whatever it is, and that's your reality. I will think less of you if you do that, but you can do that. That's what this whole era is almost about. I realise if I say another sentence, I'm going to get suckered in. Talk about all this bullshit. Well, you'll find out when you listen to the end of the show how much of this stayed in. Because at the start when I said, I feel like I'll be talking about it a bit too much if I'd recorded it like the day after, if I've recorded on a Wednesday, the day after the stuff. And here I am, 2 days after, be like, it's probably still not been long enough. It's still got me and I don't like it. I don't like it. Anyway, let's move on over to the Women's Tag Team Championship. Belair and Cargill versus Damage Control versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus the Messer Girls, all dressed up in their tight bodysuits. They feel way more revealing than the normal wrestling gear that they wear. I don't know what the logic in the brain thing is that makes it feel like that. Why do people feel more naked in bodysuits than they do in basically underwear? Like, what? I do not understand what the logic is there. I mean, to be fair, it could be the same logic as when a wrestler feels so naked when they don't wear knee pads. Calling it you, previous Cody Rhodes, no knee pads, man. Don't know if it's the same mental cognitive thing. You get used to seeing somebody dressing a certain way, and maybe when they change up like that, it's huge. It's like, Jesus Christ. But this was a fast-paced little tag match, given some flow as we recover and reset from the Bloodline drama. It's not really that high stakes on the line, relatively fun. You get to energise the crowd a bit after they've sat through drama. They then get to experience just a fun little tag. The main problem is you have a waiting period where you've been sold propaganda, you've got a video package, you've got all your advertisement stuff, then it plays the match. And so you've been built up, you've been waiting for 5 to 10 minutes for this thing to start. Therefore, the last thing you want is it to be relatively throwaway. But I love party tag matches. Be it WWE, AEW, I don't really care. I love a fun little party tag, and that's what this was. It showcased Lash Legend, building to Jade and Lash having their Hoss fight. Don't know all the other pairings either, like Piper Niven and Kyrie was so much fun. And Lash Legend also lifted up Zayn onto her shoulders like it was nothing. That was so much, because such reaction out of me watching that. The crowd are loving it after the everyone gets to fly breakdown. It didn't matter if the timing was like off on a few things between different flows, like Riyadh was just all in on the fun. Doomsday Device from Bianca flying for the successful defense of the titles in the end. Just a fun tag match. And I'm absolutely fine with these being on my show. Genuinely, I would rather this than someone trying to do a serious story. Like, is there one of those? Oh, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens. If that had an actual match, I think I would have preferred this over that. Watching them trying to do a serious match within the WWE style, within the hotter temperature of Saudi Arabia, so it slowed down even more. I really wouldn't have had a greater time. I would have been sitting there trying to get through it. But this, I love zappy fun matches like this. Much rather this play out. Moving on to Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed. A big old brawly brawl sure was what the Doctor ordered in the flow of this show for this one here. Sethy Boo attacked the man on the ramp, ensuing in plenty of chaotic clobbering. Eventually into the ring and immediately into a tsunami. First one nailed, second one dodged and right into a stomp near fall. Big brawl, check. Finishers and kick out, check. So where is there to go now? What do you do? Big Bronson got his big boy spots, top rope fun times teased in between his awesome looking spinning power bombs and whatnot, eventually climbing into a super duper plex and a look of Aussie disbelief. Reed seemingly indestructible, but a stomp to the steel steps, stomp in the ring, and a super stomp off the top rope were finally enough for the knackering win. Paul Jenner got a cut on the corner of his eyebrow after the steel spot, but he got to rise to his feet like a monster with blood dripping down his left cheek after the match. You know the wrestling rules. He did the blood, he did the wins. Like long term, he does the wins because he did the blood on face. That's the wrestling rules. That they are the rules. And what we saw Monday Night Raw, I feel like, was a perfect follow-up just to keep the momentum going. I feel like when he appears on Raw this week, he's going to get a reaction. Pretty much guaranteed. They've done all they can to set it up. Hopefully this time it works. It's insane that they have done so much actually good booking with Bronson Reed. Yet the reactions seem like they're just so reluctant to cheer him, and I don't know, I don't say cheer him, but so reluctant to react to him. I don't know why. I don't know why it's been such a difficulty getting this guy over. But it feels like this is working. It feels like they're on the right track and actually get somewhere here. That'll swing me into the Women's Crown Jewel Championship, Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. The first Blood Money Diamond Championship got its first crowning, but at what cost? Well, 50 million, but I meant narratively. Big versus little, power versus speed, charging giant versus nimble wily escaper, aka the kind of flow you expected. Still impressed with how much Nia is improving. Like, we weren't getting big Samoan drops and sunset flip power bombs out the corner before. But this was only until Stratton ran out. Nia caused her own problems as she yelled the blonde away. Raquel Rodriguez stopped the second Money in the Bank attempt. With her and Dom now out for those ringside numbers, Dom and Raquel used a briefcase to distract and give a big old kick to the lass, going for her finisher. No sitting on your opponent for the win tonight, Nia. Oblivion for the win. Trips presenting the Blood Money title with Pyro after. Like, oh man, just keep making him go out there. Oh, poor lad, just let him be. He wants to just sit in his chair with her, just watching the wrestling show that he's done, put together. He doesn't want any of the attention. Oh, he's out there again. Oh, these people just keep pushing him out there. Oh, poor. If there's one person we want to feel sorry for in this economy, it's Triple H. It's Triple H. But yeah, they trying to make the Blood Money title feel important. My main question had been, what are they going to do? Because they're obviously not going to be taking these titles around with them. Well, they're going to present them with a big fancy ring. I feel like that's a lot easier for them to actually carry through for a bit. And I feel like Cody Rhodes especially is the kind of detail where he wouldn't want that to disappear. He'd want to keep the ring for a little while. I don't really have a lot to say on the women's match. It wasn't that great. I wasn't that invested in it. I think the biggest deterrent is I don't care about these titles. And they've done what they can to kind of build them up, but my main thing is I don't feel like long term they're going to mean anything. Monday Night Raw was still in Saudi Arabia, so they made a big deal of them then. You're obviously wanting to promote the fact that these are going to be in their physical WWE, whatever it's called, experience-y place, is to up the importance of it. However, long term, past that, like on Monday Night Raw, is it going to be mentioned past Liv Morgan wearing a ring? My assumption is she will wear the ring. Like, it's a Triple H detail where you do at least remember to do that stuff and carry it through. Shouldn't need to mention it that much, but carry it through. But I'm not expecting it to actually mean anything or like elevate to anything. Like the fact that she won that, what does that mean now? And I don't know how they sell it or the importance of it and give it that grandeur and that feeling. I made it sound like that. How do you even come up with an idea? And it's like, I don't know, just get a room of people together and you go, okay, let's think of an idea. And you come up with some ideas. It's not that difficult. Of course, the ideas might be shit, but at least you put time in to try it. Speaking of ideas I did actually like, Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. First note, Kevin Owens out in a Cowboy Bob Orton shirt. Randy out after a 5-minute slow walk he's still going, he's posing, to the ring. He's made it. Baddie Kev immediately got the match thrown out as his pre-bell chair attack escalated into ringside scuffles. A stunner to the ref for his troubles, calling out the officials, and a launch into the ringside for poor Daivari. The crowd popped loud for the RKO to Adam Pearce. To a former NWA champion, how dare ye? Walking Punchy Punch strolled us into the crowd and a convenient set of black cloth tables with no one sat at them. And look at that, an elevated level with railings for Owens to elbow drop off. How fortunate. To be fair, I was kind of thankful this wasn't a proper match. Like, with how this show was paced, the last thing I wanted was to sit through this not really invested, waiting for the main event. Which was my way of saying I'd completely forgotten about the US title match. This show wasn't paced very well. But to be fair, that's the Peacock flow fault that the WWE currently has. Like, with so many breaks of nothing, you just don't stay invested. The current production does a better job of it than it was, but it still happens. In between matches, you leave the room, you get de-invested. I feel like I get way more fatigued watching a WWE show than I do an AEW one, even though with AEW, I feel like AEW ones are knackering to watch, but WWE ones I lose attention. I was trying to think of a way to not contradict past me, who has said that I find AEW shows tiring. Because it's just like bang, bang, bang over such a long period. But yeah, maybe the way to explain it is I lose investment in WWE. I'm invested in the AEW show, but I do get tired watching it. Because there's so much happening without much of an opportunity for a break. WWE has too many breaks, and I lose interest in the show. They're both negatives for both promotions, but they both mean different things. Obviously, for me, the biggest thing is it means the AEW shows rewatch way better, especially when I can pick and choose what I want to watch, and I know I'm going to get a high-quality match if I turn on a show and I feel like, what kind of match do I feel like watching? AEW's got a spectrum of stuff on their pay-per-views for me to choose from, whilst WWE's got a lot of similar style stuff, Again, this era does a way better job of having different kinds of matches with that similar style. Like, look at this show, where you've got your 6-man tag opener, you've got your tag team fun part that's full of drama and big storyline. Your second match is a fun party tag. Your third match is big brawly brawl affair. One after that is a match that's called off, you get to see a big spot through a table. Your one after that is your 3-person fast-paced working hard match, and then you've got your big epic singles main event thing. Every single match is a different style of a WWE style, for want of a better word. But it is all within that phase of WWE style. Whilst on an AEW pay-per-view, you get different styles of wrestling rather than different styles of matches, which makes them way better on a rewatch. And it leads me to the triple threat. Yeah, LA Knight versus Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade. What pure fun this was. Like, so many spots springing and flying quick fire from one moment to the next. Like, honestly, the exact kind of match this show needed at this point, and not really one we see that often on WWE pay-per-views nowadays. Just wakes everybody up, re-energises them, and gets them in a good mood for the main event. I think this was the place to put it, because you're essentially using it like Darby Allin pay-per-view match. You are using it to re-energise the crowd. Melo and Andrade keeping that fast pace. Knight, the character that's actually over, who just elevates the reactions. A flow you don't see often with the lads trying to pin both of their opponents. A fair few nice spots like Knight's pop-up into the top rope German flung Andrade down with him, but left Hayes open to hit that nothing but net leg drop. But especially the ending, with Melo spinning around Andrade to hit his facebuster, but the rotation set both lads positioned perfectly for the champion to BFT out of nowhere for the win. I felt like I could just go through the spots that I got reaction out of me or that I enjoyed in this match, but it's one of those where it just jumped from moment to moment. Generally, really fun match. Really just got me energised and back into the show. When I was ready for the main event, when Kevin Owens and Randy Orton making their entrances, I was just like, I'm ready for the main event already. And I was just like, let's get through this and then get to the main event. Completely forgetting about this US title match, because the pacing of this show was like the way that it was, I don't know, slowing down, whatever. Like, I was ready for the main event when Randy Orton and Kevin Owens are making their entrances. And that partly is to do with the fact there's so long breaks in between each match, giving me room to get tired. But I really enjoyed this triple threat. There's a lot going on for it. If you're going to check out one match from this show, I'd say check out this one. It was easily the match where it just absolutely flew by. I enjoyed it the most. 3 guys went out there with their working boots on and made this title kind of feel that way. For me, they absolutely know what they went out to do with it. Yeah, so well done, kudos. Which brings us to the main event, the Men's Crown Jewel Championship. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther. How great it is to be in an era of WWE where I genuinely love both champions. Riyadh had a ball too, singing songs for both men like they were a European crowd. Even chanting Sami Zayn's theme at Gunther during a late match chinlock rest, which I really enjoyed. The match itself was alright. Like, in essence of the crowd entertaining themselves, isn't like doing the Mexican waves and all that stuff. But that's mostly because they weren't doing that for the rest of the show. So when they do it here, it's like, it kind of just feels like they're maybe losing a bit of interest, getting a bit tired at this point. Cole explained it as doing everything they can to put off Gunther. I was like, oh, yep, of course, that's exactly what's happening. But compared to Leon, where they were like that from the second the show went on the air, and apparently they were like that like an hour beforehand. Like, they were crazy at that level the whole time. Whilst they weren't doing this stuff for the rest of the show, they only did it during the main event. So it has that air of, they're just losing a bit of interest. It's just gone on a little bit too long and they're struggling to stay invested in this match. The normal Teddy thing is, do they react to the spots, though, that happen within there? And whenever Cody Rhodes did a fight back, they were invested in what Cody was doing. So it wasn't... I'm just so used to this stuff being against the company, but they're now doing this stuff in an era where the WWE is the babyface again. Like, they're so cheering for the company. They're so in and enjoying everything that they're doing, that when they do this, and in the past it was an anti-show thing, like, now it's part of lifting up the atmosphere. Like, they're doing a thing that used to be against the show, but now it's like part of the energy of it, like in a positive way. I feel like newer fans won't have this problem because their brains have to be wired through that kind of like decade plus of just WWE just not making sense and being such a strange thing to consume. Because it's not that now. It's not that. You don't watch it and go, wait, what? On such a regular basis. So yeah, completely different times. Also, Gunther was so damn smooth in his catching of Cody's disaster kick and rotating into the Boston Crab. Nom nom nom. There was just such a great snap to the World Champion's offense during the closing flow. I'm not nerdy enough to know what he was doing, but nerdy enough to know it was cool. Like, he was putting an extra something in there, but I'm not wrestling nerdy enough to be aware exactly what. Gunther the beast, but Cody kept to his word that he's shown it'll take more than that to just keep him down. Fighting out the sleeper, kicking out after the powerbomb. The WWE champion was groggy, but was still asking for more in the fight. The awesome closing sequence I talked about. Rhodes flew from on high with a super Cody cutter and got caught into a sleeper, but rolled his weight back into the pin. And I know a lot of people hate that finish, because it's one of the things where it's just like, just let go. The only reason that Gunter is trapped is because he's holding on to him. You let Cody go, problem solved. But within wrestling logic rules, I see this pin so often that I kind of just treat it like that. It's one of those ones where if you tell me that the Paradise Lock is impossible to get out of, I will believe that through the story that you're telling. I will believe it. Same here. If Cody Rhodes rolls back and Michael Cole tells me he's trapped, he's got Gunter trapped, he can't get out of it. That's what they're selling. They're the rules of the world. As long as you don't break those rules of the world, then I'm perfectly fine to believe it. They're definitely not perfect. And to be fair, even though I'm somewhat defending it, I still believe that this is going to get contradicted within at some point. Like the logic of this finish. But I know the reality of the Paradise Lock. It's impossible to get out of. Don't break my illusion. It's real. It's real. Trips and KSA folk in the ring to hand over the championship. Big pyro and one more replay to give Liv Morgan time to come out and pose with them. They did a whole ceremony for the champions during the post-show. It was a Saturday night when I was watching this, and in spite of being a wrestling fan, I decided I would quite like to socialise with my friends. I know, it goes against everything that we stand for. But I do quite like my friends. Anyway, let's jump over to... I normally jump over to the next location for the show, but we're in the exact same place again. So let's jump on over to Monday Night Raw. Now the propaganda can be broadcast on national television. That's where we pay the big bucks, pal. And tonight, it's a culturally significant city. Oh, it's not just beautiful and progressive. Oh, tonight it's culturally significant. Anyway, let's jump on over once again to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, this time for Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw يقام في بلد عربي رياض خليهم يسمعوا صوتكم يلا.
Yes, I've decided to start Monday Night Raw with the same topic as we started the Crown Jewel pay-per-view. Sami Zayn, the Canadian, loved wherever he goes, but especially so by the KSA crowd. Not gonna lie, it was nice to see Arabic spoken on Raw and met by cheers rather than the usual conditioned xenophobic response of the booing. The watting, it's the watting, I have a Twitch reaction to that now, which is no, don't what the foreigners. No. Jey Uso out as well as we quickly swung into the Bloodline drama. Sami suckered back in to help his friend. Jimmy didn't allow Zayn to make it clear the Roman kick was an accident, going full pantomime with the "we all saw Sami do it on purpose," and the crowd went, "Oh no, he didn't. You're not a bad guy, Jimmy, but you make bad decisions." Hey, I like that line because it gives all three characters beats in how they all react to Jimmy. What does Jay do when Jimmy makes a bad decision? What does Jimmy do when Jimmy makes a bad decision? What does Sami do when Jimmy makes a bad decision? It's just a line I feel really works with other people to feed off of. Jimmy's flare-up met by Sami, flat out telling the brothers he's not going back into the family drama, only for Jay to immediately save his brother from making another bad decision. The offer opened for the four of them to have a chinwag on Smackers, and the crowd again chanting for Sami Uso as Jay lent into those chants. Hey, listen, they want it. But yeah, I thought this was a really good follow-up to the pay-per-view. Just having Sami Zayn voice about what happened afterwards. Yes, it was a bit pantomimey. Just you did the thing. Oh no, I didn't. Oh yes, you did. It's yeah. But I liked what it was setting up, especially that line about Jimmy. Felt like that's a really good line. Just you learn about every character in that ring because of how they react to when Jimmy does the thing that the line was about. Yeah, that's good writing. And then you can set up the different scenarios to bounce off of it. In execution, a pantomime. And that's the point where with WWE sometimes. In execution, very pantomime in the production and the way it was all set up. In the actual kind of the point of it and the character stuff it's more doing long term, it feel like this segment was all positives. It's kind of what I was getting to when I was talking about how great it was for me when Cody and Roman did that tape segment, because they're not playing to get beats and reactions from the crowd, which means you don't insert certain lines and you don't try and go for those beats. You don't try and get reactions from the crowd like it, which means it feels way less pantomime. It's way easier to buy into the seriousness of it all. Anyway, back into pantomime nonsense. Let's jump on over to the Crown Jewel champion, Liv Morgan. She kicked off the show, bragging about taking out Ripley, bragging about beating Nia Jax. The generic line of calling herself the greatest women's champion. You know what that means? Belair and Cargill came on out, so oh yeah, about time they started dripping teasers for their eventual split and hopefully main event elevation for both. Now that the WWE audience is invested in Jade, I kind of disagree with it was bad to make them tag team champions for their characters, because that's the part I disagree with. It was bad for the overall perception of WWE, because that meant their only real top black stars that they were willing to get behind were now not in the main event, which means now you've just got nothing in the main event in terms of black representation. But that's not a Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill issue. That's an issue fully wide with WWE, where they've just got this reluctance to present black talent as big deals once they get to the main roster. In NXT, it seems like it's no issue at all. It's been a running thing for a long time in NXT, where black talent are perfectly fine to become an NXT champion. What's the likelihood of a black talent facing Roman Reigns in the WrestleMania main event? Like, we thought we maybe had somebody could maybe even do a SummerSlam type of thing with Bobby Lashley, but he goes to SmackDown and he's completely de-elevated. When you've had Jade and Bianca in this tag team kind of feud, it means you've got two more black talents who are stuck in the mid-card for a little bit. For their characters, well, 100%. I 100% agree with doing this for their characters. It's way better to do this now than it would have been to do Bianca versus Jade at last year's WrestleMania. Because it would have been nice, but it wouldn't really have meant that much. It means a lot more now that they've gotten the crowd invested in this match. That when this actually plays out, whoever turns heel, it's going to mean so much more. And it's going to be a much bigger deal for both of them. And I feel like a match after the split, whatever, I feel like the way they've done it, it's going to be a much bigger deal. And the main event push will just have a lot more behind it in terms of momentum. Like, they could put the effort in to build it up, to put momentum behind it. Because when you are treating somebody as that big star, as the future, like, look at Bron Breakker. They're coming up with so many ideas. The creative room has the goal, has the aim, come up with things for Bron Breakker. Have ideas, because they are willing and they're putting in that effort to make Bron Breakker a big star. That effort isn't there for the black talent, and that's what I mean. The machine isn't behind them, and they choose who they do it behind. You control everything. It's not a case of, oh, I believe properly in just talent. It's like, you decide. That's not how this works. You can get behind anybody. Watch AEW. That's what it feels like to have a machine behind black talent. Big tangent. We're swinging into that period of, okay, now we need to see it pay off and see them both elevated back into the main event. Because it desperately needs to have both of them there. But this did swing us into the number one contender battle royal for the women's title. And swinging straight into it, poor Isla Dawn was the first out. I mean, probably not poor after the Saudi payday. Maxine got a wee moment to shine, but didn't actually eliminate anyone and then just got hit out by Niall, who herself got into a tiny sequence with Zelina Vega and 619 to elimination. Like, just stop doing things. Like, doing anything noteworthy immediately gets you eliminated. So just hide. Don't do anything. Be a coward. You will survive. Also proven by the ad break eliminations of Zelina and the done dirty hand-walking Katana chance. Like, she got her big escaping the elimination spot by being super athletic, and it's just in an ad break and I have to do a replay for it. It's like, oh, come on. The final four: Io, Valkyria, Jade and Bianca, giving us our first proper sight of how the tag champs fare with an opportunity on the line like this. But all we got was the stare down. Before, not in the match, Liv and Raquel pulled them over. Boo! Sky and Valkyria, the final two, with a minute for a wee flow. Both out on the apron, kicking and sweeping, when Shotte, high angle German onto the apron, and Io wins. Awesome. Gives Liv a actual wrestled contested title defense, which her title reign has severely lacked. Like, am I right in thinking like the only person she's defended against that wasn't Rhea Ripley is Zelina Vega on a throwaway mid-card Raw thing, which wasn't that hot of a contested match? So a match with Io, I feel like, is what Liv's title reign desperately needs. Just a strong performance where she's allowed to wrestle. Because I feel like her character's been put to the side, and there was a note which was actually brought up by Big E on the panels, where he's been talking about, like, we've been talking about, like, who you're sleeping with, who you're dating with, and there's not much conversation about all the training you're putting in to get better and better. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's not like a fan problem. That is definitely a presentation by WWE problem. And I can't remember the last time I said it. I was like, let her do a wrestle. Like, whenever I've talked about a Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan match, like, in every review, without meaning to, I've just put, okay, now we actually get to see them do a wrestle, right? Like, right? And with the Dom in the cage match, which was just full spectacle WWE nonsense, I was like, okay, we got maybe a minute or two of seeing Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan doing a wrestle, then it was straight back into shenanigan nonsense. It's just, like, I struggle to get behind Liv as a champion, mostly because she's not allowed to be seen as such. She's not allowed to be seen defending it. She's not allowed to be shown, like, wrestling. Like, with Gunter, obviously, he gets to be shown as being the wrestling champion, so he wrestles. That's not Liv Morgan's character, so you don't see her wrestle, but that does mean I'm just not going to be that invested in her title run. They've done a lot to make me invested in her character, not that I'm, but they put the effort in. I've got my own negatives, a list of negatives of the way they've been presenting her character, but they have been doing it. They've been putting that effort in to come up with stuff to make you care about the Liv Morgan character. You want to see her lose. That said, it's not lose the championship, because her title reign it's not meant anything, because it's been the secondary thing to the rest of her other plot points, be it with Rhea Ripley, be it with Dom and Judgment Day. It's always secondary, if not third. So the title, stuff like this is good. Do stuff like this. And the final match I want to talk about is the World Championship #1 contenders Fatal 4-Way, Damian Priest, Seth Rollins, Sheamus and Dominic Mysterio. Main event, Dominic Mysterio, 2 weeks in a row. They're really balling here. Really going for it. 10 minutes for a bit of frantic fun. They still found a way to flow into my least favourite 2 at a time flow for stretches, but the opening and the ending were great, it was fine. Big Bronson Reed surprising Seth with an attack, set to take the lad out, but goodies Sheamus and Priest stopped him, only for Death Valley drivers and tsunamis to both. Somewhat classic WWE presentation to kinda stop the match to tell the story they really want to be telling. But I am happy they immediately had the next step for the Big Aussie. Great pop for Dom's opportunistic frog splash getting broken up by Damien. South of Heaven and Damian Priest has his rematch with Gunter. Not sure how much plans changed with Ripley's injury, but I wouldn't be surprised if Priest's title match is met with a little judgment interference. Get that ball rolling again. So yeah, that's really everything I wanted to talk about on the show. Yeah, the main event was... I was ready just to type out. Oh, it's a fun house show feeling tag match. Well, they did the Fatal 4-Way, which was, again, for the #1 contenders itch stuff. But it was still fine. It built up decent fun. It was all right, whatever. That's my feeling for Raw overall. Because it was in the same place, it still felt like it was the ripples from the PLE were somewhat being felt throughout Raw. Being in Riyadh still kind of did help with that feel like these are the ripple effects of what's happened. But it was also Monday Night Raw, which was absolutely fine to miss. If they were doing a tester for, or what if you did a Raw in the same location as the PLE, you got to see what the atmosphere was like, but you didn't get to experience the big special show. So you can watch Monday Night Raw, get a little bit of that experience, and then maybe you as well might go onto Peacock and watch the show or whatever. I feel like it's not the worst idea. It does, though, result in the Monday Night Raw being very throwaway. But it can be worth trying out. It can be worth testing out. Especially in terms of ratings and things as well. America's a little bit distracted this past week. So that type of stuff, it's not the worst week to try out something like this. There's going to be a whole sway of people not fully paying attention. Just a little bit distracted. So it makes a lot of sense to just, why not try out this idea, see how it goes. But yeah, so that was your week of Saudi propaganda with the Crowd Rule event and Monday Night Raw. They're competent propaganda shows. Because these shows are paid for by the Saudi government and they get a say of what happens in the shows, which was part of kind of the negative. The whole point they did these championships was because that's what the government wanted, and it's it's your problem, you figure it out. It's okay, fine. But anyway, so that is the end of the week. Somewhat sorry that I was well, here's your distraction from the politics. Time to talk about Saudi Arabia. Somewhat sorry about that. But it's the week of what did happen in WWE, so don't really it's the format of the show. Did what I did. So anyway, thank you for listening, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never take it for granted. Please do check out all the other shows here on Social Suplex Podcast Network. We're in an amazing place right now. Feel privileged to be a part of the network in the country that it is. Also, join all of us over on Blue Sky. Maybe we need to put together a Blue Sky welcome package of all the Social Suplex people, just so we're all there in a bubble. Seriously, thank you to anybody who does buy our merch or anybody who does engage with us in any of those manners. It always means a lot. So with that, I say Nottingham Forest are third place in the Premier League, which is mental for somebody who watched them in the Championship, which is the league below, for all my life, apart from when they got relegated to even the league below that. To see them in third place in the Premier League, this is not the contemporaries we're used to. We're not used to saying the phrase "we are above Arsenal." That's not how it works. Not what we're used to. Anyway, enough blabbering about random stuff. With that, I bid you adieu. Adios.